Hi everyone. Before we get started with this video, I'm going to put out a warning. Some of these things are kind of a trigger for some people, and it might be a trigger for you. In this video, we'll cover topics of suicide, depression, and many other things. So if this is something that's not for you, I do not advise watching. So I wanted to talk about something that's very emotional for me, something that has been on my mind for a very long time, and something that I want to share as an experience with you guys. This is something that's very close and personal to me and is very emotional, and something that I feel that the fandom doesn't talk about quite enough, and is something that I feel like should be talked a little bit about, just for those who are having these feelings, so that way they can get the help that they need. So what I'm going to talk about was when I was in the Army probably about 3 years ago, when I was stationed in Savannah, Georgia. And it's something that even the people who live near me didn't quite know. While I was there, I was suffering with large bouts of depression. I was considering getting a divorce with the wife that I had at the time. And my job was really, really hectic. So the job was difficult. It was something that if I messed up, bad things would happen to people. And it was something that I had a hard time coping with, and was putting me in emotional duress every day. So on top of all these things, I was having a lot of trouble emotionally. I didn't have anybody really to lean on at that time. I had just moved to Savannah, and I didn't really have that many friends that I was close to really talk about and go through these things with. It wasn't until about 3 or 4 weeks into moving there and everything was happening, everything was crazy, that I really started to hit an emotional point in which I felt like I could not go on. I've always been dealing with depression. Depression is something that has always been with me. It's something that I struggle with daily. But this is one of the very, very, very seldom times in which it hit a critical point that I felt like I could not go on. So that was probably one of the most emotionally unstable that I've been probably ever. Everything was kind of changing and moving faster than I could imagine, and everything that was happening was just putting me under more and more stress, and I felt like I emotionally could not deal with it. And it got to a point where I wanted to give up on life, and I couldn't quite cope with everything. And there came to a point where I sat there, it came to a point where I sat and I was trying to think about everything in my life, and I just couldn't. I didn't see a reason. I didn't see anything looking forward to me in my future. And it was kind of because I was looking at it in a narrow-minded sense. Something that I noticed about in my own depressive state is that I didn't realize the bigger picture. I kind of just saw the smaller things and saw a very short-minded way of looking at the future, which is all immediate, all right now. And I never looked forward towards the future, because I always thought that everything right now was what mattered the most, because I couldn't see the future. It wasn't until I came back from work, had an absolutely horrible day, probably one of the worst days of my life, that I sat there and I contemplated committing suicide. It was something I felt like I just was done. And it got to a point where I actually had a pistol in my hand and I was ready to commit. while I was preparing myself to go through these sort of things, I received a phone call from somebody, and it snapped me out of it. It's something I can't quite comprehend if something like this is what I would say is a miracle, but it snapped me out of my state, and it moved me forward. You know, I was ready to go, and thinking back on that now, and it's something that I want to discuss with you guys, because for any of those who are having these thoughts and having these sort of things that are happening in their own life, and you feel like you just can't go forward anymore, there's something I want you to think about. For me back then, it just took that one phone call from a very close friend who didn't even know what I was doing to snap myself out of it, because you never really think of the possibilities of what could possibly happen. You know, I was so stuck in where I was that I didn't see any possible outcomes. But now that happened, I'm here. I'm here to record myself talking to you guys. And there have been people who have messaged me, you know, saying that they're contemplating these things. And I always say the same thing, you know, you don't know what your future is going to be. You don't know how far things will go. And you never really notice the possibilities of what the future may tell. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't be talking to you guys. So please, if you get these feelings, reach out to your friends. Seek help. Because ultimately, the biggest thing is that not everybody's qualified. You know, and reaching out and finding help in facilities that can help you is something that I wish I would have done. And something that would have helped me way earlier on. I will leave links in the description below for those who are seeking help and who need it. So I advise those who have these problems to seek help, because I wasn't as fortunate and I didn't realize these things are always available. So for those of you who are, go check those out. Other than that, I normally don't record this kind of stuff, but I felt like this was something that I personally have been dealing with for a long time, and I felt like it was something that might help others to hear what I've been through. So with that being said, I hope you guys got something out of this video. I know it's short, I'm sorry, but this is something that I've had on my mind and wanted to record for quite some time. Having a serious discussion about something that is important to me is something that matters most. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something new, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.